All right, guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome. For those catching the replay, this is the Empath Survival Guide. We're going to be learning how to set loving, healthy boundaries. And just a show of hands for those who are here, who has difficulty setting living, healthy boundaries? Yeah, okay. So all of us with the right hand too. I love it. Okay, so we're all in the right place. Let me share my screen. But before I do that, let's tune in. Yep, share my screen. Perfect. Aha, never mind. We have another guest. I'm so glad I waited a moment. 9 minutes late. We're not too bad, right? Not too shabby. Erica and Tom. You guys with us?
Okay.
Can you hear us?
We can hear you now. Yes.
We are here.
How are you guys doing today?
Having some crazy energies going on today.
Yeah. Anyone else having some crazy energies these past weeks? Yeah, Lisa, I know you. Lisa's always feeling some things, all the energies in the world. Is Erica with you, Tom?
She is. She's on the sofa right there.
No, don't. I don't want it.
Okay, she's not here. Erica's not here. It's okay. That's all right. We got you, Erica. We love you.
She's here in spirit.
Yes. So let's all take 3 deep breaths in one more time, just to fold in Erica, Tom. If you're catching on the replay, this is important, right? Taking 3 deep breaths in allows us all to sync up. It allows the nervous system to relax down, to kind of step into the space so that we can give our full presence. So let's all breathe all the way out. Breathing in through the nose. Slowly out through the mouth. Starting to sync up. Relax down. Deep belly breath into the nose. And on the exhale, just relaxing the shoulders, relaxing the forehead and the cheeks. Allowing yourself to arrive here. Arrive now. One more time. Deep belly breath in. And out. And let us dive into this experience. I'm so excited. All right, so can everyone see my screen? Yes? Thumbs up?
Yep.
Beautiful. All right, guys, I'm going to be bouncing back and forth between the presentation and you guys. So first of all, welcome, my friends. Once again, this is setting loving, healthy boundaries. We are all here because, man, we are just not taught these skills. No one teaches us how to do this. They teach us math. They teach us physics. They teach us, ABCs and spelling, but they don't teach us how to relate to another human being. So most of the relationship advice that we get is unconscious when we are young and when we're relating to our parents. And as we will see in what we're going to be covering today, a lot of the times when we tune into our childhoods, we are actually meeting the needs of our parents because no one taught them how to emotionally regulate. No one taught them how to get their needs met. So that's going to be a big thing that we're talking about is needs today when it comes to setting healthy boundaries. So first of all, we're going to be diving into why is it so freaking hard to set healthy boundaries? It's not just our parents, it's also society in general. We're going to be talking about the difference between boundaries and barriers. Okay, this is huge because a lot of people think that setting a healthy boundary means that they're going to be putting a barrier in between them and someone they love. But that's not true, and we'll see why that's not true. And then we're going to be learning how to heal from abandonment and rejection. Sorry, my pictures aren't showing up. I have no idea why, but we're going to be learning how to heal from abandonment and rejection because when we start to tune into and set healthy boundaries, there's a chance that people won't accept the rules of the game that we want to play. And that's going to trigger our abandonment. Someone's going to leave us or someone's not going to accept us for who we are and what we need. And if we can't actually sit with abandonment and rejection, we're not going to be able to set and then maintain healthy, loving boundaries. So we're going to be doing some hot seat coaching on that. And last but not least, we're going to be tuning into the 4 energetic layers of healthy boundaries. I'm going to be taking you guys back to a time where kings and queens ruled the land, and we're going to put you guys into the throne room of your castle, your energetic body. And I'm going to show you exactly how to set energetic boundaries and where you can keep people in, as opposed to just having a wall with no drawbridge and just have this moat that keeps everyone out. Or you just allow every Joe Schmo to waltz into your energetic field and your personal space. I'm going to teach you how to separate those things so you don't just have those barriers. So the first question I'd love to kind of go around the circle with is, where are you checking in from, right? So let's tune into where everyone is geographically. I like to think of this all as like nodes. We're all connecting from different spaces, different places, and we're creating a field of love around the globe. And what is one thing that you want to take away from the workshop? So let's tune in here. Let's all take a deep belly breath in. And I'm going to start with, I'm feeling Jessica. Where are you tuning in from? And what's one thing, like if you could leave this workshop with a gold nugget or something, what would be important for you to leave with today?
Yeah, I'm tuning in from upstate New York. And what I'm hoping to gain from this workshop is setting emotional boundaries and not taking on other people's stuff and having that weigh me down, to be able to be empathetic, but not kind of drowning in it.
Yeah. So to be able to tune in with people, but not take it on as yours. Yeah, that's beautiful. And if you guys can, if you have a pen and paper by your side, I want you to write that down and see, we're going to see at the end of the workshop if that came true, because I think that's going to come true. We're going to definitely learn how to do that. Because one thing I learned is, as empaths, we have a gift and a curse, right? We can feel everybody's stuff, right, Lisa? We can feel everybody's stuff, but we don't know how to turn it off, right? So we feel everybody's stuff. So it's like we have the ability to tune in and be a reflection for people and help them heal. That's why I can do what I do. But if we take it on as our own, then it's a weight, it's a boulder, it's a rock that we're carrying around. That's not even ours, right? So thank you, Jessica. Write that down. And let's tune in with Martine. I'm excited that this is my first time connecting with you personally. So I'm really excited to hear you. Where are you from? And what are you looking to take away from the workshop? You're muted. You're muted, my friend. Martine, you're muted. There we go. Start one more time. We got you. Start over. We got you.
Yeah, I'm from the Toronto area. And just when you just the title, setting boundaries has been a lifelong thing for me. And I just associated with self-respect. I do find like when I don't set boundaries, like I've always been a people pleaser. So now I find it's not working for me. It's not serving what my needs are. So I think learning to set the boundaries, I feel like it's showing me like that I'm respecting myself, what my needs are. So, but it's progressive to try and get there. But I still find it difficult.
Absolutely. Totally respect that. I feel the same way. And we're going to work on those people-pleasing tendencies. We're going to learn how to please ourselves. Right? Let's tune in. Thank you, Martine. Let's tune in with Lisa. Where are you checking in from? What do you want to take away from this workshop, my friend?
I'm in New Mexico, little alien city, Roswell. For me, it's more of upholding the boundaries. I've kind of been working with boundaries, but the abandonment, rejection definitely comes in and the boundaries go away. So just maintaining them in a healthy way without anger and it turning into a barrier, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Got you. Abandonment, rejection. Feel you. So make sure you write that down, right? And then tuning in with Erica and Tom. Where are you guys from? And what are you guys trying to get out of the workshop today?
We're outside of Rochester, New York, and I'm feeling like what Jessica is looking to get out is something that's very important for both of us is, as we open up to our empathic abilities, learning how to not take on, or at least being able to recognize quickly that it's not ours and figuring out how to shed it and let it go rather than hanging on to it and, integrating it.
So shed and let go of the stuff when it comes up, when it comes through. I love that. Beautiful. Yeah, I definitely think that I'm going to be under promising, over delivering on all that today. So I'm super excited. Let's all take one more deep belly breath in. When you guys are ready to start, just give me a little thumbs up. Give me the thumbs. I got the coffee today. We're ready to roll. Okay, beautiful. Let's do it, guys. Let's jump into this, man. This is something that's been a big struggle in my life since childhood, and we're going to tune into that in a moment. Why? And I'm just excited to be sharing this information because I feel like this is gonna change people's lives. All right. So now that we've tuned in, now that we got the container set and sealed, let's dive into the material, right? Let's tune into if you're in the right place, right? It sounds like we're all in the right place, but just to tune in, I want to see who tends to be in these categories, right? Just to make sure we're all in the right place. So just tune into these. Let's start to feel and see if this resonates with you, okay? Do you guys fall in love fast, quickly? Yeah. Do you lose yourself in relationships? Do you happen to create your identity around the relationship or another person, or lose who you actually are? Do you give a lot more than you receive? Way too much? And do you find it challenging to receive? Just tune in. Jessica, do you have a question? Oh, okay. Sorry. I didn't know if you're giving me bunny ears or what. That was beautiful. Do you have trouble asking for your needs to be met? Just tuning into these for a moment, right? Do you fear being rejected or abandoned? Do you have trouble saying no to other people, especially ones that you love? And can people guilt you or shame you out of your truth? It's like, you know what your truth is, but if someone starts applying a little bit of guilt, a little bit of shame, then you start to bend or break, right? So just tuning into that for a moment, taking a deep breath in. And just to show of hands on the side here, who resonates with the majority of these over here? Yeah, Lisa, Jessica, my team. But yeah, right? Okay, cool. So we're all in the right place. We've all come to the right place. So let's tune into it. Now that we know we're in the right place, why is it so freaking hard to set healthy boundaries? Right? So what I want you guys to do, I want you to imagine what it's like to be a child again. Okay, I want you guys to kind of float back into childhood. Maybe when you were 5, 10, something around those, before the teenage years, right? When our brain is really plastic and we're like sponges and we're soaking everything up. I want you to tune into what it's like to really depend on your parents for all of your needs to be met. All right. So just feel into that. Like when we're children, we can't do anything for ourselves. We can't work. We can't provide. We don't know where money comes from. We can't get the food. We can't get the water. And we're dependent 100% on our parents to meet our needs. Right. So because of that, we need to trust our parents. They're the big people. They're the big things, kind of like us, that are making sure we're protected, making sure that we're moving through life, making sure we're staying alive. So there's a deep level of trust and dependency on our parents in childhood. And I want you guys just to tune into, like, really go inwards for a moment and tune into what it's like to be energetically around your parents. So maybe even taking a deep breath in, closing your eyes, and just remembering what it's like to be around your parents energetically. Right? Tuning into, were they regulated emotionally? Were they providing for you in the ways that you needed? Were they meeting your needs? Were you actually the one that needed to meet their needs? Were you providing for them emotionally? Were they dysregulated? And you were actually the one that was helping them? Because a lot of times, what I found is we become copper children, right? Empaths, we become copper children, right? So if you think about it, copper conducts electricity, right? The reason why we use copper wire for electrical wire is because electricity can move through copper really easily, as opposed to wood, right? Wood's an insulator. If you try and put an electrical current through wood, it's not going to flow as easily. But copper, just like from one space to the other, it's just boom, it just flows through. So with empaths, with us, right? We all know we're empaths now. We conduct emotions. Emotions flow through us really, really easily. Our nervous system is literally, it's like a copper wire, and emotions can flow through us. So when we tune into this, let's find out if you were a copper child. Just imagine for a moment, were your parents able to regulate their emotions? Were they able to ground themselves into the moment, ground themselves into the earth, and be emotionally regulated and stable for you? Or were you the one that their emotions had to flow through? When they were angry, did that anger go through you? If they were sad or upset, were you the one that was picking up because they couldn't feel it? All right, tuning into that for a moment. Were they able to ground in, or were you the ground wire for their emotions? Right? So when we tune into this, I got this idea from, I believe, Robert Bly, Iron John. So I'm going to take a deep breath in. Is this concept of when parents aren't regulated, when they aren't able to ground in, the emotions have nowhere to go. And because we're young, we love our parents and we depend on our parents. If they aren't capable of maintaining regulation, homeostasis, then that means that we're actually in danger. So, right? So can anyone resonate with that? Like if your parents weren't able to hold space for you, you had to hold space for your parents. I just want to go into this for a second. Who here feels like they had to be the strong one or had to hold space emotionally for their parents? Consciously or unconsciously? Yeah. Okay. A little bit. It's okay. This is just tuning into it. Martine, do you feel like you hold space or you have to hold space and regulate people's emotions in relationships, friendships, romantic partners?
I haven't had a romantic relationship in a while. And my mom passed away 30 years ago, so it's hard for me to remember whether I had to hold space for her. Mostly it was me watching her regulating herself with alcohol.
Okay.
That's my memory.
Yeah. So tuning in with that, you were watching that's how she regulated her emotions. Do you feel like that as a child made you feel safer or less safe?
I didn't feel unsafe, no.
Okay. Interesting. All right. So this may resonate with some, may not. It's okay. We'll tune back in. Everyone take a deep breath in. So as empaths, copper children, a lot of times we feel responsible for other people's emotions, right? So what I would do is, oh, boom. Okay, let's go back. Would you consider yourself a copper child? See, I get ahead of myself. So Lisa, would you consider yourself a copper child?
Oh, 100%. Yes.
When you tune into that, what resonated most for you out of that kind of breakdown of what a copper child is?
Just the lack of my parents' ability to regulate emotions, and me very much feeling connected to that and trying to absorb it and make them okay. Was pretty much, yeah, my entire childhood.
So trying to make them okay, right?
Yes, and everyone. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so that in turn, you can be okay, right? Because we're
Yes.
dependent on them. If, this is my
Mhm.
childhood too. It's like, if your parents can't regulate,
Yeah.
we can't trust them. So we try and help them so that one day our needs will be met.
Yeah.
But as we find, that doesn't really happen, right?
No.
Right. So Jessica, do you resonate with the concept of being a copper child?
Yeah, absolutely. My mom had a lot of chaotic emotions and trauma as I was growing up, and it was my role to try to regulate her as much as possible by saying just the right thing and walking on eggshells and avoiding a lot of topics. It was like in those movies where there's just like laser beams everywhere you have to avoid and dodge over, and that's been my whole life with her.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I feel like that resonates with me as well. And Tom, my friend, do you feel like you were a copper child as well?
I was fortunate in that my parents, for the most part, were fairly well regulated, but they were not skilled at processing emotions. So when big emotions did come up, not common, but when they did come up, I was more the grounder for the family, that I was the one that, that flowed through. And it definitely affected me for sure. But, it, at least yeah, no, it was, so yes, I resonate with that. And Erica does as well.
I do, but a thought did come up where I didn't feel it yet.
Erica's a teddy bear. Oh, there she is. Okay. What was your thought, Erica?
I didn't at first think my dad was, that I had to regulate for my dad, but you said something and I can't remember exactly what, but in him not saying things, but feeling things, yeah, I definitely, my mom, I knew, yes, 100% my mom, but I was like, not my dad. And yeah, even my dad, in the things that he didn't say, I felt, thinking back, yeah, I did feel those things, and I did feel like a copper child because of it. But with one I knew for sure, and now I'm realizing the other one too. And I'm wondering, because of your parents, as in Tom, I'm looking at Tom, not saying their emotions and exploring their emotions, if you actually did feel it, because they weren't verbalizing it.
Absolutely.
So it's not just what you did see and what you did feel and what you did hear, but it's just what you felt, because they were quiet and they had so many, not boundaries. What was the other one? Blocks. What had you said before? Not boundaries, but
if they can't ground it. So yeah, if they can't feel it, if they can't allow themselves to feel the emotion and ground it into the earth or out of them, then they need somewhere to put that emotion.
yeah, blockages. Yeah. Hi, by the way.
Yeah. Hi, Erica. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And what I would love to tune into, everyone take a deep breath in, because that's really important too, is this concept that if our parents, just because they didn't show emotions, doesn't mean they didn't have them. Right. And sometimes unexpressed emotions are louder than expressed emotions. Right. So for instance, my mom was very stoic, very, I don't cry. Right. None of that pansy stuff. Right. But she had intense anxiety. She had intense anxiety. And when we're young, like I said, copper children, just because some children learn how to emotionally regulate and they don't become the copper adults, right, doesn't mean that when we're young, we're not picking up and feeling on all these little things. These unconscious things, before we can verbally communicate, affect our nervous system on very deep levels, right? So even unsaid or unexpressed emotions, when we feel them, we're like sponges and we take that on. And unconsciously, we make agreements with our parents that, okay, if I do this, if I hold you, if I can give you your needs, then you're going to give me attention. You're going to give me love. I'm valued, and therefore won't be abandoned and rejected. Does that make sense? Yeah. So let's all just tune in. Cindy, my friend, would you like to check in? I'd love to hear your voice, my friend. Cindy, if you're open and available, you're muted. Would you like to come on, just check in and let us know where you're from? All right. And if not, that's okay. Okay, so she's from Ecuador. Okay. So Cindy, yeah, if you don't want to participate, it's perfectly fine. We would love to see your face, love to hear your voice, and it's a new space. I understand. So I hope that you'll get a lot of value out of this. Okay, she has issues with the audio. Beautiful. So if you can figure that out, let me know and we'll check you in. So everyone take a deep breath in. And we're about to dive back into the presentation. All right. So now that we kind of know what copper children are and why it's difficult to tune into and allow ourselves to actually set healthy boundaries. Next time you wonder why it's so hard to set healthy boundaries, what I want you guys to begin to recognize and tune into is that we learned early on that our job was to be energetic ground wires for other people's experience to flow through us. Okay. Because our parents didn't show us how to set healthy boundaries because they had unmet needs and we were the ones meeting those needs. We learned that our value is from getting those emotions and grounding them through us, right? So we never actually have learned how to fully develop our nervous system. And this can lead to feeling like we are unworthy of love unless we're giving or doing for someone else. Does anyone feel that way? If you're not doing or giving or holding space, then you're not actually worthy of love. Does anyone resonate with that? Yeah. We feel like if we set boundaries, then we take away our only sense of worth and value. Okay. We fear that if we set boundaries, we won't be valued. And if we aren't valued, then we will be rejected or abandoned. Okay. Does that make sense? And we all know that as children, the biggest fear is abandonment because it literally means death. If our parents don't love us, if they don't connect with us, they don't pay attention to us, then we might die. We might fall. We might get taken. We might starve or literally be left out in the cold, right? So one more time, take a deep breath in. And what we're going to do is we're going to tune into our experience as children, going back to the best of our abilities, closing our eyes down, deep belly breath in. And what I want you to do is I want you to feel into your parents, feel into your siblings, and just ask yourself, like literally imagine them right in front of you. And just asking yourself, do you feel responsible for their emotions? Do you feel responsible for their well-being? And now imagine your parents, your siblings in front of you, whomever you feel emotionally responsible for. Maybe it's even a loved one or exes. What we're going to do is we're going to actually practice in this moment, setting healthy boundaries right now with our conscious and unconscious mind. So take a deep belly breath in. And I want you to literally imagine your parents in front of you, sitting them down and repeating after me out loud. Okay, everyone's on mute. I've got you. Repeating after me. Telling your parents and siblings, I am an adult. Say that. I am an adult. As an adult, I am responsible for regulating my own emotions. I am not responsible for your emotions. I am not responsible for your reactions. I deserve love. I deserve attention. I deserve connection. I deserve safety. Deep belly breath into that. My value isn't determined by my lack of boundaries. I am a human being. And because I am a human being, I am valuable and lovable, just as I am. It is safe and healthy for me to set loving boundaries. And to say no to those who can't respect that. I will no longer be emotionally blackmailed. I will no longer be shamed. I will no longer be guilted into giving up my emotional needs or boundaries. I release my need to please you. If you can't meet my needs, then I will meet my own needs. I will meet my needs internally or make space for someone who can. One more time. I will meet my needs internally or make space for someone who can. Because I am worthy. Because I am good enough. Because I can set loving, healthy boundaries. Even with those who are closest to me. And when I set loving, healthy boundaries, I become an energetic blueprint for those who haven't yet developed those skills. Taking a deep breath in. And that is the most loving thing that I can possibly do. One more time. When I set loving, healthy boundaries, I become an energetic blueprint for those who haven't yet developed this skill. And that is the most loving thing I can possibly do. Now, deep belly breath in. Coming back to the moment, coming back to the call. I just want to get a little pulse read. I want a 30-second check-in. What was that experience like to be able to say that, right? The best way to learn something is through emulation. It's to see it and then to do it. And then that's how we practice and learn, right? No one showed us how to set loving, healthy boundaries. I just gave you an energetic blueprint, a verbal blueprint. And you guys actually had the experience of sitting down with your parents, your primary caregivers from childhood, who taught you not to set healthy boundaries. And you guys were able to have that conversation. And the unconscious mind can't tell the difference between what's real and imagined, right? So your nervous system actually had the experience in a safe container, having that conversation with someone. So one more deep breath in. Tuning in, 30-second share. What was that like actually being able to tell your parents that I love you, but I also love myself, and it's okay for me to have needs and to set healthy boundaries. And if you can't meet those needs, then I'll find someone who can, or do that within myself. What was it like? 30-second shares. Let's go to Jessica.
It was powerful and it brought up a lot of emotions.
Mhm.
And I didn't only picture my parents, but like past partners, and there was a lot going on there.
What were some of the emotions that came up?
There was some pain. I was mostly there was a part of me that was stuck on because it resonated so deeply, that notion of like giving up your boundaries in order to be loved. And that was like a really powerful theme for me. So like along with doing that, there was just like a lot of memories of times I have just given up or pushed boundaries to earn love.
Yeah, I'm super proud of you, and I know emotions can come up, right? So super proud of you. Let's all take a deep breath into that. Because when we make a statement to the universe, well, guess what? Our unconscious mind is going to be like, well, remember all the times you didn't, right? So that was a beautiful first step. Let's tune into Lisa. 30-second share. What was that experience like?
Well, at first it felt completely unsafe, like I could die saying that. But then it felt empowering and like it wasn't about me once I stated. It just shed the attachment. I don't know how to explain it. It just didn't feel unsafe anymore voicing it, which is very difficult for me to voice it. So it felt very freeing and kind of natural the way it should be.
And that's why we do this in a safe space.
Yeah.
Right. First, we practice. It's like It's like martial arts. You don't just go off to war. No. No, you have a mat and you have an instructor and you go slow and you do 1,000 repetitions before you ever throw someone on the floor. Right. So this is why we're doing that. And I love that you said it brought up like, I'm afraid to die. Felt like I could die. That's the abandonment section. Right. Thank you for that share. Let's tune into Erica and Tom. 30-second share. What's your experience like?
I felt it was very empowering. Like I felt like I could stand tall in front of them. And also, like Jessica, I imagined my past partner and communicating the same thing to her, that, I am no longer here to be your emotional regulator. So very, very strong, very powerful. I didn't have any fears coming up with it, but it really made me feel like I was 10 feet tall.
Love that. Love that for you, brother. You deserve it. Let's tune in with Erica.
Actually, my experience was completely different. Because I've done some of this work before. Like I felt like I had more boundaries than I ever have with my parents, but not as much. And I realized by the end, not as much, because my thought process went to, wow, I really did this to my kids. I made them my copper children. And now where I'm feeling, before I got on the call, I had an experience where I was absorbing more than one person that is in the house right now. And it kind of got out of control. And I was hoping that maybe this would have sort of prompted it or like pulled me back in. But what it actually did was, listen, I did this to you guys, and now I'm taking on the responsibility for what I did to you guys. And the people I'm absorbing are not even my kids. Does any of that make sense? Sorry, because my head is still in that sort of foggy, tense place.
Yeah.
I am coming down though, but my body is still up here.
That's okay. Yeah. Nervous system regulation. So I'll take a deep breath in. Thank you for sharing that, Erica. And yeah, and that's specifically why I put that in there, is like by doing this, by learning this skill for ourselves, we actually are able to download and then imprint on others an energetic blueprint, right? Do what I say, not as I do. That doesn't work. I'm going to tell you to do this, but I'm doing something different. People don't learn like that. But I've learned how to set healthy boundaries. I still struggle. I'm not perfect at all, right? Especially when it comes to relationships. But I've gotten much better, and I've studied this, and my energy is different. So then I can share that with you. It's a way of being. So when you show up and learn how to do this for yourself, what you're doing is you're also showing up and learning how to do this for your parents. You're also showing up and learning how to do this for your children, right? It's a different, you got an energetic blueprint download from your parents put on you. That's how you run. And now I'm overlaying, we're releasing, letting go of, taking out that old program. It's like pulling out a CD-ROM and cracking it in half and then putting in a new one, updating the system. And then you guys now are running on that. And you can share that with others, right? So go ahead, Erica.
Would you be able to post that the affirmation you just
Absolutely.
gave us, so that we can I feel like I need to repeat it a couple of more times.
I got you. Absolutely. We can do
you.
that. Thank you for that suggestion. So everyone, take a deep breath in. Thank you for sharing that, Erica. We're all going to have very different experiences. That's what it's supposed to be. And Martine, 30-second share. What was that experience like for you?
It was the experience was like when you started to talk about like the affirmations, I felt okay. There is a space and time where I can stop my pattern and reflect and switch my reaction to it. And you know, when you're on automatic on the pattern all the time, it just keeps going.
Mhm.
But just the affirmations made me feel like, okay, I can really pause and switch my thinking and switch how I'm going to react. So that's what I felt at the time.
Yeah, beautiful. And practice it. Like that's a really good idea, Erica, to have those affirmations, because this is literally a conversation you can have, a loving conversation. And it's a lot harder when you're doing it with those old patterns. So I love that, Martine. And Cindy, she said that she was having a little bit of issues with the volume. So she shared and she felt relief. She felt lighter, empowered, and that she does deserve it. So Cindy, absolutely, you do deserve to have your needs met. You deserve to have attention and love and connection. And we're going to tune into that. So one more deep belly breath in. Yeah, deep breath in. Let's see. Okay. So what I want to do is I just want to tune in for a second and share my own story, just really briefly, really quickly, because we all learn through stories. That's how our brains were built. That's why movies work, books work, anecdotes work, testimonials work. It's because we learn through the wisdom of others. So to give you guys an example, even just a few years ago, I was working at Metro PCS. It's a cell phone store. And I had this little kiosk in the middle of the mall. And my dad is really, really good at guilt and manipulation when it comes to trying to get me to do things I didn't want to do. And what he would do is he would literally come into work, even after I told him not to. He would come into work. I was working 11-hour shifts, 50 hours a week. And he would literally come in 2 hours into my shift and ask, "Hey, James, can you take a quick lunch? Can you take a lunch so that we can talk?" So 2 hours into an 11-hour shift, because I didn't have boundaries, I would take a lunch and then we would sit down. We would have the same conversation we always do. I would get angry. I would get sad. I would get upset. He would leave when I expressed those emotions. And then I was left for another 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours at my job, stewing, angry, rageful, upset. Literally, sometimes I'd have to go to the bathroom and cry because I had so much emotional tension in me because my father wasn't respecting my boundaries. So it got so bad that I literally, okay, we're going to tune into this for a second, because I want to let you guys know with the next piece, rejection and abandonment, it doesn't matter how beautifully, eloquently well you put this. Sometimes you share your boundaries. Some people will not be able to respect that. And you have to be able to be okay with that. Okay, so I did this thing called nonviolent communication, where you express your needs and how the other person makes you feel. You make it about you, not about them. I wrote it all down and I said, "Dad, look, this is what I need. I need for you to just tune into how I feel. I just need to be seen. I need you to recognize how you make me feel. That's it. Then we can have a conversation." So I gave him this list of how I feel when I'm with him, what I'm needing. And it really, actually, when I really noticed that I needed to make a change was when the feelings list, where it was like negative emotions, were about this long and the positive feelings were about this big. That's how I felt around my father my whole life. Didn't even realize it until I wrote it down. So who in our life are we allowing in our life where the good feelings we get are about this big, and then we have a whole laundry list, 2 pages long, of negative emotions, right? I shared this with him. My heart was beating, felt like I was like I was going to die, right, Lisa? And I shared it with him. We were in a library and he literally said, "Why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me? It feels like you're punching me in my gut." So me just expressing how I felt, he didn't even get to the needs, what I needed, just expressing how I felt. He said, "It feels like I'm punching him, so I'm attacking him. And why are you doing this to me?" And it was really difficult for me, but I said, "You know what, Dad? I love you so much. I love you so much, but I can't do this. I can't do it." And I got up. I walked away. I left the sheet with him. I said, "When you can do this, then we can talk. Otherwise, I need to disconnect. I can't see you. Don't show up at work. Don't leave me notes. Don't leave me presents. He would leave notes under my windshield in my car where I lived, right? Talk about boundaries. And I said, I can't do this. And it stayed that way. He tried, and I held that boundary. I didn't connect with him or talk with him for 2 years. 2 years. It's very difficult, very painful. And when he showed up after 2 years, I had done so much inner work. I had gotten in men's circles. I'd done father wound work, relational work, coaching, all the things. Well, what I was able to do is I was able to heal and source those needs within myself. And then I can show up to the relationship. Then he didn't change. He was still manipulative. He was still trying to guilt me. But I had pulled out those triggers. I had pulled out the buttons. I had pulled out the heartstrings that he was playing like a fiddle. And I was able to, like a ninja, sidestep the manipulation and say, actually, no, I love you, Dad. Sidestep the guilt. I love you. I'm not trying to argue. I just want to understand you, because I had done the inner work. And because of that, I was able to have a conversation. It went very differently because I wasn't playing the game. Right? So you guys, it's possible, but sometimes we need to take space. And the only reason why I was able to take space is because my partner had gone through the same process, and she had healed, and she said it was okay for me to do the same thing. I didn't even know it was unhealthy until she expressed it. So I want to give you guys permission to heal. I want to give you permission to set loving boundaries. And I want you to understand that if they choose to play the game, if they choose to not do the work, it has nothing to do with how worthy you are of love. It has nothing to do with how good you are. It has nothing to do with you. But it feels like it. But that is the dynamic. That's the blackmail. That's the fear. It's not true. So taking a deep belly breath in, recognizing that within your own life, it's not the same situation, but as I said, stories can powerfully penetrate and shift things. Just giving you guys permission. Just allowing that to sink in for a moment. One more deep breath in. And now what I want to do is allow that to sink in. Okay. I'm going to move to the next piece. Okay. Allow that to percolate in the unconscious as we move on to the next piece. Right. Next time we understand why it's so hard to set healthy boundaries. It's because copper children believe that what they have to offer is their value. If they don't have anything to offer, then they're not valued. They're not valuable. They'll be abandoned and rejected. This is what copper children believe. You guys are no longer going to be copper children. You're going to be evolved empaths who have the balance between the gift and the curse. Okay. You guys can set loving, healthy boundaries. Copper children believe that their value is actually having lack of or no boundaries. That's why you're valuable. You're valuable because you don't have any boundaries. That's what they believe. And that's why they attract the people that step on them, because they're allowing it in. Copper children believe that not having boundaries equals safety from rejection. If you don't have boundaries, you'll be safe. People will not reject you, which is also not true. You're rejecting yourself. I think that's the next slide. One sec. Yes, if you don't have healthy boundaries, what you're actually doing is you're rejecting yourself. So you are not actually safe from rejection. You're actually doing it to yourself. We just don't notice. And then copper children believe that having boundaries equal keeping them from love and connection. This is also not true. If you have healthy boundaries, you're actually going to be able to play the game of love a lot easier, right? So the difference is evolved empaths actually believe that having healthy boundaries promotes love and connection. They know that because they have the experience, right? When you can set healthy boundaries, you can play the game of love safely. They believe that rejection has nothing to do with them. So just tuning into yourself for a moment. Take a deep breath in. Allowing yourself to allow this to sink in. The idea that rejection has nothing to do with you. Actually, I feel like we need to pause in this. Who feels resistance to that? Rejection has nothing to do with you. Erica. Who else feels resistance? Jessica. So Erica, just really quick. Tune into that for a moment. Why does rejection have something to do with you?
Because I think a little piece of me still needs to be healed regarding the rejection portion, and it still being a little bit of my fault. I mean, it's not huge. It's not where it used to be, but it's like there. It's a little, like a little stone.
Mhm.
And but it's not that big. But it still is my fault.
Mm. So that's the belief. That's the story. It's my fault. Rejection is my fault. Right. So let's take a deep breath into that. Anyone else resonate with that? If I'm rejected, it's my fault. Yeah. So we're going to be doing healing work in the later section. So hold on to that stone. It's not going anywhere until we pull it out. So you don't have to worry, but just keep that in mind. Jessica, what part of you, let me tune back into this. I just got an intuition that we need to stop here. Rejection has nothing to do with me. What part of you doesn't resonate with that? What part of you doesn't believe that? Where's
Part of me
resistance?
doesn't believe that rejection is because of me.
Yeah. Is there resistance to that phrase, to that belief?
I feel like there's a part of me that just really has still this fantasy fairy tale version of love in my head, and that it's supposed to go on forever. And the only reason it ends is if there's something wrong with you, and then that's why you lose the love. But if there was nothing wrong with me, then it would go on forever. So I think that's the belief that I'm holding on to.
Does anyone else resonate with that? I resonate with that. If I changed, if I was different, things I would get love. If I was good enough, I would get love. Right. And let's tune in with Lisa one more time. What part of you rejects or doesn't resonate with that, or there's resistance to that?
Well, I don't trust myself. I'm working on that. Trusting myself not to sabotage back to those comforts, even if it feels like rejection, or just kind of being a victim of rejection. I've noticed a pattern of that, and being comfortable with that, and trying to learn how to even be social without playing a victim of. It's just kind of breaking it down, and the shame of it involved with, rejection aside from self-worth is just, it's a daily battle with the way, just in my family, the belief was you are a bad person if you don't do good things, and the shame of it, and not trusting myself to go back there. So that's where I feel a little responsible for the feeling rejected.
Can we see how that is blackmail? That's emotional blackmail.
Yeah.
You're a bad person if you don't do good things.
Yes.
But who's deciding what those good things are? The people who need those things from you.
Exactly. Yes.
You're bad unless you do this. Right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep your child unless you give me $1 million.
Yeah. And kind of not trusting myself not to do that to people, not knowing healthy ways of having relationships. So I just take the responsibility on myself to stay away from just people in general.
Yeah. So you're trying to protect people from you, right?
Yeah, from those things that hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deep breath in. 1 second. 1 second, Erica. 1 second. Yeah. So this is going to lead to the next piece, which is boundaries versus barriers. We put up barriers, which are impenetrable fortresses. They're brick walls to protect ourselves or to protect others. Mm-hmm. So there's a part of you that doesn't trust you because you learned this behavior.
Yes.
But that's not who you are. It's just programming. So those barriers that you put up are actually keeping you from practicing the healthy ways that you're learning. You've been learning. We've been working on it. You're working on it now. So I want to acknowledge the steps that you've been doing. Each time you practice, each time you step forward, you're pulling out a brick out of that wall and opening your reality up to love and connection. And I'm super proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Erica, do you have something to share? And then we're going to take a little quick bathroom break. Okay.
I have a question. How much of this is our empathic side absorbing from other people, and how much of it do you think is actually us naturally?
So, in the world according to James, right? I'm not saying that this is scientific, right? There's lots of books on empaths and highly sensitive people and things of that nature, and scientific studies maybe, right? In the world according to James, and dealing with people who are empathetic, like all of you, right? Helping them, helping myself. What I've learned is that there could be genetic components of it, where some people are just more in tune, like their nervous system's more sensitive, and there's a genetic component. And nature versus nurture. If we grow up, we're all empathetic. Every human being is empathetic. Our nervous system can pick up on energetic emotional waves of other people. And especially as children, we're sponges. So what I believe in the world according to James is that certain people who are in this copper child dynamic, where their parents don't teach them how to regulate, their nervous system never learns how to put up a buffer, never learns how to put up a barrier. So some people, just like, some people are naturally gifted at sports, and then they add on and they practice and they get better at it. We may naturally just have more empathetic ability and intuition. But because we've practiced, and that was a survival mechanism that if we didn't have, we felt we'd be rejected, right? If you don't have food, you'll steal. You'll get really good at stealing so you can eat, right? So if we don't know how to meet our needs other than meeting other people's needs, we'll get really good at that. And like a lot of people said, it's like stepping on eggshells or walking over laser tripwires. Guess what? Those laser tripwires are invisible. They're subtle, minute little things that happen on the face. They're energetic signals that people set out when they come into the door or come in the door. I would know who was walking up the stairs just by the sounds of the footsteps. I can feel literally, like I realized this in my old house. I could feel when my roommate closed the door. I could feel the air pressure in the room change. That's because you need to be in tune with your environment so you're safe. You need to prepare. So I don't know if that answered the question. I feel like we've practiced and practiced and practiced tuning into other people, so much so that we lose track of who we are, and other people's stuff becomes our stuff because that's actually what's important to our survival. Does that make sense? Yeah. I feel like I want to make a clip of that. That I feel was like, that was good. That was good. All right. I need to just take a quick bathroom break. Is that cool? Does anyone need to use the bathroom? Okay, I'm going to pause the video. Go ahead. What's your question, Erica?
Okay, so my question is, how much of the, because I've done boundary work, right? And I feel like I'm not 100% in whoever is, right? But how much of these rejections are us picking up on the other person's rejection because we are so empathic and we feel it so deeply, and because we know how that feels, it almost feels like our own. So how much is us versus what we're absorbing? Does that make sense?
That fear of rejection is actually their fear of rejection. We're taking it on as our own.
Yes.
Yeah, so I can't give you a quantity.
Well, not a quantity.
Right?
But do you feel like that's
There's a part of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's this concept of like what we judge in ourselves, we judge in others. So it's that same thing. If like someone, I imagine, right? Let's imagine our parents for a second, right? If they have needs, unconscious needs that they're getting met through us, right? Let's say a mother doesn't have a partner and her son becomes her unconscious husband. That's a dynamic that can play out in childhood. She probably fears him leaving. She probably fears on an unconscious level rejection, abandonment too. So obviously, if she's feeling that and the child is empathetic, he's probably feeling that too, but he thinks it's himself. There's this other concept that I felt in childhood, and my mom always apologizing. This is something I learned with my coach. I spent a 3-day time period with my coach, and like literally in the Airbnb to do deep inner work. And I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Can I just grab a spoon?" And I needed her to move away from the drawer. And she was like, "James, you don't need to apologize for needing a spoon." And I thought about it for a second. I was like, and I just started bawling my eyes out. I just started crying because I was like, wait, she's like, you don't need to apologize for everything. And I was like, why is that happening? Because she taught me how to have a belief process. And I was like, okay, what are the thoughts? What are the emotions? And there's this deep sadness that came up that caused me, that sadness was causing me to apologize for everything. It's because I felt like a burden my whole life. And then after that session, that time period, I went back and had a conversation with my mom. And I, just talking with her, and I saw all these beliefs. And she told me a story about how it was basically our fault that she couldn't eat liver when we were growing up. Oh, you kids stuck your nose up at the liver. Yeah, we couldn't eat liver because we love it. Me and Sonny Boy loved liver, but it was your fault that we couldn't eat liver because you guys were too whatever. So I realized she was putting that energy of burden. It was our fault, our responsibility. She couldn't have what she wanted because of us. She never said that, but I felt it, but I didn't know why I was feeling like a burden. So I internalized that feeling that she was actually not speaking to, and I thought it was me. So the concept of rejection, that could potentially play out in the same ways, where someone's feeling it and we're picking up on it, but there's no context. So we think it's just us. Does that make sense? I thought I was the burden, as opposed to my mother didn't take responsibility for her emotions. She didn't take responsibility for directing the household. And she made it the 3-year-old's fault because she couldn't have her want or need.
Yes, that's exactly where I'm coming from. Because I feel like the more healing and trauma work that I do for myself, the more that I'm actually like picking up on somebody else, not knowing I'm picking up on someone else, going here and then going, okay, these are not my thought patterns. This is not how I typically feel. How can I not, get here? How can from, interacting or picking up on someone, just figure out, okay, this is not me. This is not my rejection. These are not my emotions. This is not my violence. This is not me, quicker, so that I don't get here and, put that on him.
I'm going to give you the key. You ready for it?
Yes. Yes, I'm here. I'm listening.
None of it is yours.
Okay.
That sounded like a question. Just assume this is what changed. This is the only reason why I'm able to be a coach. Because think about it. I sit down with people and move through their deepest trauma that they didn't even realize within themselves. And if I was taking on their shit as my own, I would be a fucking mess.
Right.
Right. At one point I had like 9 people in a month, and just, session. I was like, I can't do this shit anymore. And I'm like, I feel chaotic. I feel anxious. I feel these things. It's taking on all their stuff as my own, until I realized none of it was my own. None of it, literally none of it. Even my own emotions are not my emotions. They are an experience that I'm having. I don't own it. It's not mine, which creates distance. So even if it is coming from me, even if it is coming out of me, I'm not holding on to it. Oh, I'm crying right now. One time I was doing dishes. I started bawling my eyes out. What is happening? I don't even know. I have no reason to be crying. And I get an intuition to look at my text messages. So I dry my hands, open up my phone, and I see that my partner, who we were in a fight, we were like taking space for 3 days. She messaged me and she was on a bus. She couldn't be sad on the bus. She couldn't cry on the bus. So energetically, I was shedding tears that she couldn't. Now, if I would have just said, I'm so sad, and just started drowning in it because I'm sad, right? That I would be owning something that's not even mine. We are all energetically and emotionally connected on levels that we can't even comprehend, especially with people that we've deeply connected with. So the key for you guys is literally to say, if you're feeling something, if you're thinking something, just say, it's not mine. Not mine. Hi, emotion.
I'm just going to say that's one of the biggest things that you ever taught me in our coaching. And to recognize them coming in and not respond in an emotional state, and kind of assessing it like, does this make sense to what's happening with me? Is there a reason I should be crying right now? And it's literally, I feel people all over the country.
You also pick up on people's thoughts.
Yes.
And you literally feel, so if people don't know, Lisa feels people's pain in her body as her own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Extreme.
can you imagine going through your whole life like,
Sorry.
why am I in pain? It's not even yours.
Yeah. I've spent thousands of dollars on doctors when it was not my own ailments. And it took many years of learning that, because I was trained to take responsibility for every bad thing I felt, and just recognizing those pains and just consciously being like, nope, that's not mine. It's as simple and as difficult as that, because that takes a lot of, self-trust. But yeah, it can be intense when you feel it. You won't, everything. I don't even know how to put it.
Let's all take a deep belly breath in. Let's clear the space. Deep breath in. I love the questions. So, Audible, we're not going to get through everything today. I'm silly. I put a lot of stuff in here. So we're going to get through the barriers and the boundaries, the difference between that. And then we're going to open up for the healing for abandonment and rejection. Don't think we're going to get to the last piece, and that's okay, right? I may do a separate training on that. So one more time, deep belly breath in. And I love the questions, because this is what's real for you guys right now. And if I can offer value in that way, give those little keys, those little nuggets that have helped me shift, that's what I want to do. So let's tune back in with this. I'm so glad that we paused there where, rejection has nothing to do with you, because I feel like that's a really important piece, right? So now, evolved empaths, which is what we're all becoming, no longer copper children, no longer allowing the rest of the world to flow through us unhinged, unimpeded. We believe that our value is our self-worth, okay? We need to value ourselves, and then others will treat us in kind. Our value is our self-worth. Self-worth is not determined by your ability to meet other people's needs. That's going back into like tradesies. Okay, if I do this for you, you'll give me love and attention. And that's awesome. If we're children, we have no other strategies. But right now, our self-worth determines our ability, is not determined by our ability to meet others' needs. This is going to be a game changer for you guys. Okay. Self-worth is actually equal to your understanding that your needs are important and a priority. And just to give you guys an example, once again from my own life, I believed up until last year, this year, that I didn't have needs. I don't have needs. And I also believe that if I ask for my needs, not only will I be rejected, but I'll be hurting the person I'm asking. And this came from an experience when I was young. I asked for $10 to go to the movies with my friends, with my mom. And she didn't have $10. So I got rejected. She said, no, I can't. And I felt her anxiety around money. So I felt me causing her pain. I felt her pain. I thought it was my fault. When you're 10 years old, you don't realize your parents are going through shit. So it's my fault my mom's anxious and in pain and worried and stressed out and overwhelmed that I'm feeling. So I'm just not going to ask for anything. I don't have needs. That shows up in my relationships to the point where I become the manipulator. We become the manipulators because we learn how to do that. So what I would do is I would go up and give my partner a hug when I needed a hug. And my partner's so in tune. She's so empathetic And one time she said, James, are you giving me a hug right now because you want to genuinely give me a hug and it's something you're offering from fullness? Or are you giving me a hug because you need a hug? And just her, it was like an energetic slap in my face. It was very nicely put, very lovingly said. But I got slapped in the face like, oh, am I manipulating her? And I literally went like this, and I didn't know what was happening. I froze. I started getting overwhelmed, and I wanted to bawl my eyes out, and I didn't want her to touch me. So isn't that interesting? As soon as she called out my need for touch, I didn't want to be touched because it was a need that I was unconscious of. Does that make sense to people? And I had to release the emotions, release the belief, release the thoughts. And literally she was like, James, if you want me to touch you, ask. If you want me to just put a hand on your shoulder, ask. And I was so emotional, just asking, trying to be able to say, can you just hold my shoulder? Can you just put a hand on my shoulder? Because I believed I didn't have needs. And if I asked for needs, I was going to hurt her. It's not true, guys. Okay. So how does anyone else believe that they don't have needs to some extent? Or it's more important for other people's needs to be met? Like you can go without, but other people? Yeah. No more, guys. It can be a painful process, but changes the game when you come from a full cup. Okay. So self-worth is equal to your understanding that your needs are important and a priority. Okay. So now, guys, we're going to tune into, everyone take a deep breath in. Let's shake that off. Shake out the shoulders. Maybe do some neck rolls. Shake your hands a little bit. Come into the body. Shaking off the last piece. Now we're going to tune into the difference between boundaries and barriers. And this is super important because these are unconscious things as well. So what is a barrier? Okay. What is a barrier? Before we dive in, who wants to give it a try? What do you guys think a barrier is? Let's tune into it. Let's give one share. Who wants to go? Who wants to be brave? What's a barrier? Tom, you gonna be brave for us?
Barrier is something that actually keeps people at a distance, not saying, hey, don't cross this line. It's like, I don't even want you in my space because it's like, for example, people that are fearing commitment because of trauma from childhood. Instead of setting a boundary, they're setting a barrier. I'm not going to commit to anybody because of this fear.
I love that. I want to give you guys an example that's coming up in my brain right now because it's kind of fun. Hopefully no one gets hopefully everyone's okay with it. Has anyone here had sex before? Anyone had sex before? Yeah, it's okay. We don't have to be shy. Anyone? Yeah. Okay. All right. We're all humans, right? Would you rather, if you are trying to not get pregnant, right? Would you rather have a boundary or a barrier between that experience, right? A condom is a barrier. It keeps things out that you don't want in, and it keeps things in that you don't want out. Okay. I just came up with that. It's so fun. I think it's fun. It also activates our lizard brain, so we pay attention, right? So that is a good example of what a barrier is. Thank you for tuning into that, Tom. So a barrier, kind of diving into that a little bit. I want you to think of what the walls of your house would do if you had no doors. Imagine your house if you had no windows or doors. Would you want to be inside your house? Right? It would definitely protect you, right? No one would steal your stuff because there's no way in. And it would definitely keep people out, right? And it would also keep you inside. It would keep you locked up. It'd be like a prison, right? A prison is a barrier. Those walls are barriers. You're not getting out of that prison, right? And it would be hard to live in a world of just barriers because barriers are meant to keep things separated. But we live in an interconnected world. And if we want love, connection, attention, feeling connected with people, barriers are the antithesis. They are what we don't want, right? In some ways, right? We want a barrier between us and coronavirus, right? We want the barrier between that. That's not a boundary, it's a barrier, right? But we don't want boundaries between those that we're deeply intimate and connected and loving with, right? Yeah, good luck getting your needs met with a barrier. Okay, so everyone take a deep breath in. And imagine your body and your energetic bubble as that house, as that barrier. How fun do you think life would be? How much love do you think you would receive if you were just a barrier? And now what I want you guys to do is tune into this concept of the empath's plight, which is not having anything in between us and the outside world, not having anything in between other people's emotions. How do you think that, how does that feel in your body to have no boundaries, no barriers? Probably feels overwhelming. Feels like a lot. Feels painful. You feel everyone's pain, right? If you're walking through the mall and you just feel everyone's stuff, everyone's anxiety, everyone just had 6 cups of coffee and they're just fucking plowing through trying to get things done for Christmas shopping. That's a lot of energy to take in if you don't have any boundaries or barriers, right? So barriers keep us protected. And as Lisa shared earlier, when we have boundaries, it also protects other people from us if we don't trust ourselves. So imagine how difficult grocery shopping would be if you were locked in a house, right? So now most people confuse healthy boundaries for barriers. Okay, let's all take a deep breath in. So what is a boundary, right? Notice the smiles over here in the little example. So I want to ask you guys, what do the sidelines do in the sport? All right, think about that for a second. They tell you when you've gone too far, right? They're clearly marked a boundary, and outside the boundary, it's clearly marked. And when you cross them, the whistle blows and the play stops. Let's take football, for example. If you cross the boundary, if you go out of bounds, everything stops and everything gets reset. If you throw the ball out of bounds in basketball, what happens? Everything stops and you reset. Soccer, it gets kicked out of bounds. Everything stops, the whistle blows, it resets, right? If you cross them, there might even be a penalty or a rule in place saying like, okay, this happened, the other team gets the ball now, right? You don't want to go outside the boundaries, right? But you can, and that's the difference. If you were playing football and you had solid 15-foot walls, no one's going to go outside the barrier, but it might hurt if you run into it, right? So what I want you guys to tune into is energetically, right? Because we don't actually have walls around us. But the difference is when you have a barrier, it's shut down. Nope, stay away. It's avoidant. You run away. When you have a barrier, nothing can get through that except for love. We'll tune into that in a second. But when you have a boundary, okay, I'm feeling some things, but you stay in the game and you say, okay, I'm feeling like a boundary just got crossed, right? That what you just said crossed a boundary. Maybe my condom joke crossed a boundary, right? But how would I know if a whistle doesn't blow? How would I know? How would someone else know if you don't allow them that real-time interaction of that whistle? And that's, I think, the next slide. Yeah, if you cross a boundary, maybe a penalty. And when you let people know in real time when a boundary is crossed, it allows deeper connection and intimacy because it creates safety. Because boundaries are ultimately about safety. Barriers are about protection. Boundaries are about safety. You need to feel safe when you're interacting with someone. Otherwise, why are you there? Right? So if someone constantly goes out of bounds, then you can choose not to play with that person anymore. Right? So think about that for a second. Does anyone have anyone in their lives right now, even, or in the past, maybe a relationship, where they're constantly crossing the same boundary and you say something again and again and again, you cross the boundary, what happens? Eventually you get fed up and you hit the bricks, right? You hit the road. And I mean, even imagine this, right? Everyone take a deep breath in. Imagine even in boxing, even when you're trying to kill someone, you're trying to knock someone's freaking head off, right? There's still healthy boundaries. Even when someone in like a brutal sport like boxing, both agree in the beginning of the relationship not to punch each other in the nuts, or not to punch each other in the back of the head, so they can stay safe, because they know that is not okay. So we're going to agree to that, and then we can play. So it's safe for both of us, even if it's dangerous. So in relationships aren't easy. And sometimes it can feel like you're getting punched in the face, right? But as long as there's no low blows, right? You deserve to be in a relationship where low blows are not tolerated. Okay. Someone's not stepping on your needs. Someone's not stepping on you. Someone's not manipulating and guilting. That's a boundary. No, you know what? I'm not going to accept that. That's not okay. I don't want to be in a relationship where that is tolerated. You guys get to create the rules of the game. So just in kind of to understand, boundaries are not a solid wall that keeps people out. They're actually in place that people can feel safe to play the game together with shared agreements. When we're connecting with someone, we're playing a game. It's a social game. If you're not having fun, you can change the rules, right? If you're dating and you're like, not really feeling it, guess what? You can change the rules and go back to friends, right? If someone is constantly doing that thing, if they're, not putting their laundry away or whatever it is, you can say, hey, look, this is a boundary. This is really affecting me. I like my space clean. I like my energetic space to be clean. And they can choose not to respect that boundary, but that's a conversation and agreement that you can have. So what do you guys think happens when two people aren't playing the same game? Let's tune into that for a second. Who wants to answer? What happens when two people aren't playing the same game? Anyone ever been in that experience? This is
definitely conflict.
Conflict. Okay, beautiful. Beautiful. Okay.
Resentment, frustration.
Frustration.
Resentment.
No, I go.
Resentment. Lisa, what happens when two people aren't playing the same game?
I dominate the hell out of them. I do. I just like domination nation to get safe. I'm like,
when two people, when Lisa plays her own game, the other person doesn't even know there's rules. Lisa's just like, you're losing. You're losing, I'm the winner.
I'm like, you're not going to play the game right by the rules, and I'm going to win.
All right, Jessica.
No, I completely agree with that. You go into a control mode so that you feel safer. But, the one thing that I was told was you can't have a boundary and not tell somebody the boundary and then expect them not to cross your boundary and then sniper them when they're on your land. And I'm like, shit, that makes so much sense, but they should know. But no, not everybody, some people grow up with wolves.
Yeah, and if you don't put up a fence or posted signs, then how are you supposed to know you're in uncharted territory?
Yes. And that's a big point, because we all just expect other people to know the rules of the game when we come from different backgrounds, different families, different cultures, different nations, sometimes with different rules of engagement. Some people, I literally, I was with my roommate, and then his wife moved in. She came from Spain. And I was trying to be friendly. I'd joke around and this and that. She didn't like that shit. One time we made a joke. We were all trying to decide on the agreements of the house, where are the chores, how often are we going to sweep the floor. Me and my friend, who had our own little thing, sometimes we leave the dishes, then we get to them, right? The rule was no dishes in the sink. For her, she wanted the floor swept 3 times a week. And me and my friend were like, what? 3 times a week? We make sure it's clean, but like 3 times a week? Right. And I made a joke, and I said, well, you like sweeping, apparently, like things clean. She's a Virgo. And he said, well, maybe we should get one of those little robots that sweep the floor. Right. Do you guys know what those are called? What are those things called?
Roombas or something.
Roomba. Yeah, a Roomba.
Yeah.
So so he was like, we should get a Roomba. And I was like, we already got one. Because she's short and like she likes to sweep. Apparently she didn't like it. She didn't like it one bit. She actually got really angry and resentful, but she didn't tell me. I was just joking around. I was like, yeah, we already got a Roomba. Why we got to clean the floor? Right. And 3 weeks later, my partner or my friend comes to me and he's like, dude, why are you always disrespecting my girlfriend? He got in all, like deep voice and stuff. So, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, what are you talking about? You call my girlfriend Roomba. Bro, that was 3 weeks ago. What do you mean? You guys have been mad at me for 3 weeks? No wonder there's been tension. I crossed a boundary, didn't know there was a boundary there. I was trying to be friendly. She was like, bitch, you don't know me. Right? And she was out, right? So this one, what you guys said is if you don't have that conversation, if you don't have the agreement, boundaries are going to be crossed. And that's why a relationship is a constant updating process. Right? So let's all take a deep breath in. That was fun. That was a fun story. I called her Roomba and then it caused a lot of problems. Man, he was mad at me, but only because she was mad at him for not protecting her and standing up for her. It was all really fun. Anyway, I ended up leaving, but all right. So that's what happens when two people aren't playing the same game. Someone accidentally gets called a Roomba and then friendships break down, right? Anyway, a little resentment. It's all good. Next piece. Oh, one sec. Next slide. Give me a moment. Is that making sense to you guys? The difference between boundaries and yeah, this is beautiful. And I want to make sure we get to the next piece because that's the fun piece. It looks like we lost Cindy. That's okay. I'll message her. She will be missed. I wish I got to see her face. All right, there we go. All right, tuning in, deep breath in. So there's one last piece. Boundaries are agreements that we make so we can deepen into connection in a safe way. Barriers, in contrast, are protection mechanisms built to keep people out and to keep us safe. Boundaries invite safe connection like rules to the game of love. Barriers make sure connection is impossible. Barriers don't want to connect. They want to keep you absolutely safe. Setting boundaries is a conscious skill that we can practice and learn, while creating a barrier is an unconscious habit that we become aware of and shift. This is a lot of the work that I do with people. Lisa knows, you all know. Martine, if you don't know, I help pull out protection mechanisms and barriers so people can allow more love into their lives. So question, just really quick, tuning in, what's one healthy boundary, rule of engagement that you can actually set with someone real time in your life right now? Right? Just tune into that for a moment. What's one healthy boundary, rule of engagement that you can set with someone right now? For me and my partner, it was sleep. I need sleep. And when we connect, she's a night owl. Right? So like saying, look, I need my sleep. That is something I need. So when we connect, 11 o'clock, you got to take a melatonin or something. We got to lay down. I got to go to bed. I get up at 5:15, right? So that was a rule of engagement at this point in our life with this schedule that I'm on. Right. So who else? What's a boundary that you guys can set in place? Let's tune in with Erica and Tom, since you guys are a live couple demonstration. That would improve the funness of the game.
Oh, so not a past one, but one to go forward.
What's something you can put into place now that you guys are learning how to set healthy, loving boundaries?
I think we already pretty much do it. Like when, we do it on the spot because like he'll trigger me, he'll hit one of my landmines, which triggers me. And then I'm like, wait, hold on, there's a trigger there. All right. And then I work it up for myself while he holds my space. And then we talk about it. So it's a constant play. And then if it's not working, I believe we do go back and say, okay, that way of doing it, that boundary, it's not working for me, or it's not working in the way that I thought it was going to. How do you feel about that?
I think between us, we're pretty good at setting and maintaining boundaries and avoiding barriers. I think it's more outside.
So let's tune into that. Let's say with children.
Mm.
We're working on that one.
And this is why
We're
we're here. We're here to work. So-
And it's hard work.
You
I
know,
will
if
let you guys go ahead.
if I'm thinking about like my one daughter, you know, telling her that a boundary is, you know, I will, if you're upset, it's okay to be upset, but it's not okay for you to take it out on me, especially when it's not my fault. You want to be angry, but don't start snapping at me when I had nothing to do with it.
So what's a healthy way that she can express that feeling to you without making it your fault? Because this is right. Don't snap at me. It's not my fault. Right. Okay, cool. How can we make that a clear boundary? That's like saying, okay, this half of the field, maybe I'll call a whistle if it happens. Right. If you step over here, or maybe I won't because I won't recognize it because it's not clear. Right.
Yeah. For me, the boundary is if you're angry, say you're angry.
Beautiful. If you're angry, say you're angry.
Don't just lash out.
Does anyone feel like that's a healthy boundary? It's not making her wrong for her feeling. It's not making her wrong for her emotion. If you're angry, acknowledge it, say it so that I can play the game. Now I know you're angry. And now I know it's you, not me.
Mhm.
Right? Now we can continue to play. Okay, cool. You're angry. What now? Right? So that was beautiful. Thank you for that. Let's all take a deep breath in. And let's move over to Jessica. What's one boundary that you set with someone in your life right now to make the rules of engagement more fun?
Hard.
Oh,
That's really hard.
Martine, we love you. Can you come on for 1 second before you head out? Oh, nope. All right. Bye, Martine. All right. We're the real deal players. We're the ones that are ready for those boundaries. Let's tune in, Jessica. What's a boundary?
This is a really hard one and a really big one. I have something that's coming to mind, but it's like not at all a simple concept. So I don't know if I should go with that one or try to find something like simple and easier.
We can help. What's real for you right now?
So I'm just thinking like as far as like future relationships and go, of just like really not getting involved with anyone who's not willing to get into the healing trenches too, because there's been too many times that people claim they don't have any emotions and I carried the emotions for both of us and projected everything on me. So if someone can't do that work and be in touch with their emotions, like I just can't go there with them.
Does anyone feel like that's a healthy boundary to have? If you want access to me as a human being, boom, we got Superman in the house. If you want access to me, my love, my heart, my body, my mind, my physical space, you need to be willing to go into the healing trenches with me. That sounds like a healthy boundary. What's the resistance to setting that?
It feels like the activity is just something that's like simple and easy and that can be put into place like right now. And that is somewhat right now, but more of a future thing, not like something I could just like start tomorrow. I mean, to a degree, but I'm not ready to move on fully anyways. So it's not like something that would happen tomorrow.
Even with friendships, I will allow people into my space that are willing to be raw, vulnerable, honest, and actually, because friendships are relationships too. Just because you're not having sex, right? You get triggered. People are people. And like, are you willing to actually have those tough conversations so we can continue connecting in this way? Otherwise, I love you and we're not playing the same game. I don't want to play your game. That's okay. I love you and someone else can play that game with me. Erica?
Remember when we were at the restaurant last night? Sorry, we actually went out to dinner last night. And Tom was talking to O'Neill and setting the boundaries for when we all get together again. That is definitely, I mean, that hopefully it didn't hurt his feelings, but that was what we needed. And we discussed with each other what we needed, and then he verbalized it to O'Neill. And I mean, that I believe that that particular example was perfect example. Not trying to hurt anybody, not trying to throw anybody out of the game, just saying, here are our game rules. This is what we want to do. Are you in? Because if you are, great. But if you're not, that's okay too. It's okay that you don't want to play the game. We're telling you what we need, but if you don't feel like playing this game today, that's okay too.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I'm hoping that might have answered your question. How do you do it? You just simply do it. You put it out there, and you come from a place of love, not a place of anger or what the fuck, don't you know the rules kind of place.
Mhm. I don't see Jessica being like, what the fuck, you don't know the rules? Get out.
I can see it. I can see her
Yeah.
doing that. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So I'll take a deep breath in. Lisa, my friend, what's one boundary that you can put into place to make the rules of engagement, the game of life, connection, relationship more fun?
Recently with my husband, I voiced that I need him to not try and fix my emotional states, to just let me be in them. But I have an issue with voicing boundaries, to be honest with you. It comes back to knowing my needs, and kind of still learning those. But yeah, definitely just, it's been a big one. Our family tends to, everyone gets involved in what's happening, and just being very clear that I'm responsible for my emotional states, anger, all of that, and need to regulate it on my own. Yeah. Which,
Let's take a deep breath in. It's okay. Whatever's present, it's okay. You can dive into it.
and learning to cultivate, just that's important for me to learn to trust myself, is having those boundaries.
So let's talk about family. What's a healthy boundary you can put in place for family?
Recently, I'm not a scapegoat for emotional dumping, which I'm not sure how to put that in a very, I have a hard time voicing it in a positive manner.
I'm not your emotional dump.
Yeah, I'm just not your emotional dumping, especially after watching Fox News.
Yeah, like literally that
So
can be
that's,
like that can be, I don't want to hear about Fox News. Like
yeah.
you can literally say that. And that's loving, like that's loving yourself. It's loving them.
Mhm.
It's saying, look, if you want to play the game, I don't want to play that game. Because that's the game
Yeah.
they're playing. You can also say and set boundaries, that's not the game I want to play. Do you still want to play the game?
Yes. See, when you say it, it sounds so natural, and I don't know why it's so hard for me to just say those things.
Well, I'm also not in your situation.
Attached
so
to
it's
it.
easier.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not like, oh, fuck you, grandpa, fucking Fox News. Like, you know, it's
That's
not.
what I
Yeah, right.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, like I can tune into that, but
Learning
it's
to
not easy.
have boundaries without the warrior of.
But that's the thing
behind
is,
it.
Erica, I'll tune in with you in a second. You do need a warrior to have boundaries. That's actually
true.
something. That's later on the 4 layers of energetic boundaries. Most of us, when we're young, our inner king or queen, our sovereign decision maker, gets put to bed, gets put to sleep by our parents, because we can't have a rebel king tyrant on terrible twos. We can't have that. So our king, our ability to make choices for ourselves and say, this is what I want for my life, gets put to the side, never woken up. And once you say, I want this, guess what? you're claiming territory, you're claiming land, you're claiming your energetic boundaries. If you don't have something to protect that, people don't give a fuck. They'll walk in anyway. They'll shit on your red carpet. They'll throw things in your space. They'll energetically dump on you. So if you don't have a warrior to say, get the fuck out, like to have that ability, what's the point? So it's okay to have a warrior. You're not trying to kill someone. What you're doing is, it's like a bouncer. A bouncer's job isn't to actually go out looking for fights. A bouncer's job is to keep the peace. And if someone's not keeping the peace, you got to go, buddy. Sorry. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, Erica.
Lisa, two things. Can you ask your husband and have a conversation not to fix you or try to fix the problem, but just to hold your space? That's number one. And number two, why can't you, do you think it's mean to say, hey, I just can't hear that stuff? You know, I'm a very emotional person and that stuff really bothers me. Can we switch to a different conversation? Or just say agree, not agree?
Yeah, I've been doing that the last 2 weeks. And to be honest, I sabotaged out of it in a weird way because it's uncomfortable I think it goes back to my submissive Southern roots. It's the woman just, quiet, don't. So just even though it's healthy, it feels wrong to me. That inner voice. And I think it's just repetition and just becoming over time comfortable with it. I thought I pressed something funky.
Yeah, pretty soon you're going to be Michael Jordan of setting boundaries.
Right?
Yeah.
Lisa, you're going to be the Tiger Woods of setting boundaries.
Yeah. And with the holding space, it's very dependent on we're having a thing where like we both are having this issue. If we can't just hold space, and we're trying to learn how to do that better. But I have a trust with working our codependency out that he's not going to be able to hold space when I need, and I don't want to get those pushy, like it shouldn't feel pushy, but it feels like I'm pushy with him when I'm just stating healthy things because of the way he's reflecting it. And that's me just learning not to take responsibility of his reaction to it, and holding mine above that.
Let's take a deep breath into that for a second, because I think that's an important point. You say it feels pushy to have boundaries and needs, right?
Yes.
Now, when you feel into that, going back to the concept of emotional blackmail, right? Do you feel pushy because that's how other people have caused you to feel when you state needs? Or is that what's actually happening?
It's 100% because of the way I've been made to feel.
So that's the point, right? It's like guilt and shame. You're pushy. You're too much. You're right? Just even that. What do you mean? Right?
You're too sensitive. You don't have a thick enough skin.
Right? Yeah, those things to make you feel bad about yourself, defeat your self-worth, self-esteem, which is our value. So they lower your actual value so that they can get the valuable resources that they need from you. Lower your self-worth and value. You're too pushy. You're too much. You're not enough. Blah, blah, blah. So that you're like, oh yeah, maybe I'm not worthy of your love. And then here, take everything from me and love me. But it's not really love. It's manipulation. And you're getting breadcrumbs and you're getting attention. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
right?
It is.
They're not leaving. Isn't that interesting? We'll trade everything for someone just not to leave. Take my time, take my energy, take my heart, take my emotional stability, take my peace, take my, like, what? Take all of it. Take all of me. Just don't leave, please. You see how the self-worth, in order to do that, the self-worth has to be way down here. So that's what I'm saying, like that emotional manipulation, guilt, shame, gaslighting, all that stuff, making you feel crazy. All that stuff keeps you down here so that they can do that. So nothing, like, there's nothing wrong with you. It's a learned behavior from childhood. And now it's just our responsibility to shift that. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
All right, everyone. So let's take a deep breath in. And out. So, as always, I have put too much into the container. I thought I was like, I always think I need to like, oh yeah, all this information, all this stuff. But really, it's like, it's not about the amount of content, it's the depth and the ability to actually relate to it and practice it, right? So now we all understand where we came from, the copper children. All the copper children are still here, right? So we understand why it's so difficult to set healthy boundaries. We shifted into the evolutionary empath where, like with me right now, I can feel people's shit. It's just not mine anymore. So I retain the gift and I mediate the curse. I still feel a lot of shit. It's still difficult sometimes. It's still tough, but it's not the same as not having any control, right? So we continually gradually move into the evolved empath space. We now know the difference between boundaries and barriers. Does anyone feel more confident with setting boundaries now? Right? Anyone recognize their barriers, those unconscious things that they thought were boundaries, but they're actually just like, get the fuck away from me. It's too much. Right? So I feel like this was good. There's still more information. I think I'm going to break this off into separate workshops. With this, let's all take a deep belly breath in and out. And as a closing, I just want to tune in. Do you guys still have what you wrote down in the beginning of class? Yeah, Jessica, let's tune in. What did you write down? What did you want to get out of the workshop? And do you feel like that was fulfilled?
My goal was to learn how to set emotional boundaries and to be empathetic without drowning in it. And I definitely feel like we covered that and how to recognize that, you know, everything that you're feeling is not your own and to kind of create that space with it.
Beautiful. Lisa, what did you write down, my friend?
To uphold the boundaries, to not give in to the shame, and which I feel good about that right now. I think kind of breaking that down, because I never really connected to the shame and the guilt of it. It was just a response of getting safe.
Yeah. And we just kind of tuned into that too, the emotional manipulation at the end, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Beautiful.
So uphold the boundaries no matter what anyone else is trying to do.
Mm-hmm. No more Fox News.
No.
Sorry. Right? That's beautiful.
Exactly.
Deep breath in, guys. Let's move over to Erica. What do you want to get out of the workshop, and do you feel like you received it?
The ability to tell whether things are mine or somebody else's energies and feelings and pain, but it doesn't really matter because it's not mine.
Mhm.
It's not mine. And I don't have to, I can say, okay, when I start ramping up, whether it's mine or not, it's not mine. Then I can look at it and say, okay, what is actually going on, but in a disconnected way from the emotions and the pain, the physical pain.
Yeah,
That
whether
is
it's
powerful.
Whether it's coming from me or coming from someone else, it's not mine.
Yeah. Don't own your emotions, experience them. They're not yours, they are an experience. That's like,
They are not you. They are just something that's happening to you.
mhm. It's like this water, right? While I am experiencing this water in my body, it is quote unquote me, right? If we want to say that. But it's not me when it's excreted, or through sweat, through breath, through, other things, right? So it's like I'm experiencing this water right now, and it's not who I am at my core. Right now, even I'm experiencing this body. But if you cut off my hand, is that still my hand?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, until it's dirt, right?
They could reconnect it, then it's still your hand.
Yes, yes. But the point is, like, when we identify with something, when it's like it's mine, we treat it as if someone took a bat to your car, how would you feel? Feel pretty protective, angry, upset, maybe sad, right? Want to punch somebody in the face. But what if you see someone else's car has a beat up old jalopy and one of the windows is missing and the tire's flat? You'd be like, damn, okay. But you wouldn't be attached to it. You just go pass on, and a week later you wouldn't even notice, you wouldn't care, right? Because it's not your car. When you say my emotion, it's like saying my car. You'll protect your emotion, you'll protect your car, you'll defend your feeling. But if it's just an experience that is transient, we're much less attached, and we allow it to be released when it's ready to go. Because literally inside of our mind, when we have an emotional state, there's a little tiny like third entity inside of us, which is the emotion. It's a living entity and being that wants to stay alive. It's called an emotional refractory period. So for up to 15 to 20 minutes after an event, after an emotion, you're actually in a cool down phase where that emotion is dying to give way to the new thing. Have you ever been in a fight with someone and 10 minutes later they say something completely not even relevant, but it triggers you again, comes right back into that fuck you, right? It's because that little thing is trying to find something to grab onto to stay alive, right? Does that make sense? Yeah. And let's tune in. Tom, what did you want to take away from this workshop, and how are you feeling about it?
I kind of wanted to take away a combination of what Jessica was talking about and what Erica talked about. And yeah, I feel I got it.
Beautiful. All right, guys. So let's take a deep breath in. Let's start to tune out. Deep belly breath in. And out. 2 more. With your next breath in, just consolidating the information. Packing it up nice and tight. And out. 1 more time. Deep belly breath in, thinking about everyone on the workshop, holding at the top. It's holding there. Just recognize that tuning into your heartbeat in this moment is also tuning into everyone else's heartbeat. Just sending some love and gratitude. And releasing.